चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे आनन्दमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे सत्यमयी परमे सत्यमयी परमे सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द ज्योति अरविन्द ज्योति अरविन्द. So anyone, anything to share from last week? Anything you put into your practice through the week or any questions? Anything? Yeah? So what helped you to make peace with the person? Okay. Lovely. Okay. So most of us here think that our ticket to happiness lies through success, right? That if we are successful in what we do, we will be happy. But is that a given? Not a given. Why? Do we know very successful people who are still very unhappy? We do know, right? So there's something else that makes us really happy. Success can contribute to it, but it can't be the sole factor for happiness. So I'm going to read you, I don't know if you've read this, delightful, it's a fiction, it's called The Dalai Lama's Cat. It's a fictional work. It's about, has anyone read it? Okay. It's about, the whole novel is written through a cat's eyes, who's the pet of the Dalai Lama. So it's fictional, but it's full of absolute jewels in it. So I'm going to start with an excerpt from there. This is the cat talking, of course, and she's talking about a very important, the Dalai Lama, of course, had people, very important people visiting him. So this was one such person. Of course, the Dalai Lama has a powerful presence too, but of an altogether different nature. In His Holiness's case, it's not so much a personal presence as an encounter with goodness. From the time you are first with Him, you become absorbed in a state of being in which all your normal thoughts and concerns fade into irrelevance, and you become aware in a curious way, reminded that your own essential nature is one of boundless love, and this being the case, all is well. So it's saying that in the presence of Dalai Lama, you just remembered your own nature and you just felt at ease. But our guest, the guest who came, let's call him Jack, strode into the room, presented His Holiness with a scarf in the traditional way, and was sitting beside him in the wing-back chair reserved for visitors. These were the very same actions performed by most visitors, but the way Jack did them made them seem somehow more potent, as though his every word, every gesture was imbued with significance. Their conversation began with the usual pleasantries. Then Jack gave His Holiness a copy of his latest book. As he told the Dalai Lama about his world tour a year earlier, he was mesmerizing. As he described a movie in which he had recently appeared, it was easy to imagine Jack's on screen charisma. After about 10 minutes, conversation gave way to stillness. His Holiness sat back in his chair, relaxed, attentive, a gentle smile on his face. It seemed that for all Jack's powerful self-assurance, he was finding it hard to get to the point of why he had come here. Eventually, he started to speak again, but as he did, something extraordinary started to unfold. Your Holiness, as you may know, I've been working as a life coach for more than 20 years. I've helped millions of people around the world find their passion, realize their dreams, and lead lives of success and abundance. The words came to him with effortless familiarity, but as he spoke, something about him was changing, something I found hard to identify. I've helped people find fulfillment in every aspect of their lives, not just material, Jack continued. I've motivated them to develop their unique talents and abilities, to create successful relationships. With every sentence, he seemed to be losing some of his polish. He was shrinking, almost physically, into his chair. I have created the largest self-development company in America, possibly in the world. He said it almost as an admission of failure. We are talking about a man who's probably earning millions in a month, who's one of the most world famous personality, and he's saying this as if it's an admission of failure. In the process, I've become a very successful and wealthy man. This last sentence had the greatest impact of all. In giving a voice to the accomplishment of all that he had set to achieve, he also seemed to be confessing just how poorly it had served him. He leaned forward, shoulders rounded, elbows on his knees. He looked broken. When he gazed up at His Holiness, it was an imploring expression. But it isn't working for me. His Holiness regarded him sympathetically. On our last world tour, I was making $1 million every single night. We'd pack the biggest indoor venues across America, but I've never felt so hollow. Motivating people to be wealthy and successful and in great relationships suddenly seems so senseless. It may have been my dream once, but not anymore. I went home and told everyone I needed a break. I stopped going into work. I grew a beard. I spent lots of time at home just reading and looking after the garden. My wife Bree didn't like that. She still wanted to spend weekends with celebrities and party and appear on the social pages. At first, she thought I was having a midlife crisis. Then things got acrimonious. Our relationship grew worse and worse until she wanted a divorce. That was 3 months ago. Right now, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do. And you know the worst part? I actually feel bad that I feel bad. Everyone out there believes that I'm living the dream. They imagine that my life is incredibly fulfilled and happy. I encourage them to think that because I really believed it was true. But I was wrong. It isn't true. It never was. The commanding authority had evaporated, the charisma had dissolved, leaving only the sad, crumpled man. It was impossible not to feel sorry for Jack. The difference between the persona projected and the man being revealed could not have been greater. Seen from the outside, his wealth and fame and guru status might appear to equip him to deal with life's problems far better than most. But if anything, the opposite now seemed true. His Holiness leaned forward in his seat, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I am sorry that what you're experiencing is so painful, but there's another way of looking at it. What you're going through now is very useful. Perhaps later you will see this as the best thing that has happened to you. Dissatisfaction with the material world is, what do you say, vital to spiritual development. The notion that his present unhappiness was somehow useful took Jack by surprise. But the Dalai Lama's response also troubled him. You're not saying there's something wrong with wealth, are you? Oh no, said His Holiness. Wealth is a form of power and energy. Mother also says that, no, that wealth is really an energy. It can be the most beneficial when used for good purposes. But as you see, it is not a true cause of happiness. Some of the happiest people I know have very little money. But what about fulfilling our unique abilities? Jack turned to another of his former beliefs. Are you saying that's not a cause of happiness either? The Dalai Lama smiled. We all have predispositions, some particular strengths. Cultivating these abilities can be very useful, but same with money. What matters is not the abilities themselves, but how we use them. What about romance and love? By now, Jack was scraping the bottom of the barrel of his former creed, and his own skepticism showed. You have a happy relationship with your wife for your long time, 18 years. And then His Holiness turned the palms of his hand upward, changed. Impermanence, it's the nature of all things, especially relationships. They are certainly not the true cause of happiness. We think that there are two things. You know what? If you want a backrest, why don't you, if you're not using a backrest, you can move and you can go there. Huh? You can use it, you'll be more comfortable. So we think that if two things fall into place in our life, we'll be happy. One is success at work, and one is successful relationships. We feel if these two are in place, we are good. And they can add to our happiness. But the Dalai Lama is saying that they can't be the true cause of our happiness. Why? Because both these are in the realm of impermanence. They keep changing, right? So relationships will also keep changing. Today good, tomorrow bad. Work will keep changing. So they can't be the true cause of our happiness, right? So the Dalai Lama is pointing to then what is the real cause of our happiness? When you say true cause, what do you mean? A cause that can be relied upon, one that always works. Heat applied to water is a true cause of steam. No matter who applies the heat or how often the heat has been applied before, or where in the world heat is applied, the result is always steam. In the case of money or status or relationship, we can easily see these are not the true causes of happiness, right? With that self-evident truth of what the Dalai Lama had just said confirmed, Jack's own experience, the simplicity and clarity with which he had said it seemed to startle our visitor. To think that all these years I've been preaching the gospel of self-development, but I've had it so wrong. You should not be too harsh on yourself, said His Holiness. If you help people lead more positive lives, that benefits others as well as themselves. This is a good thing, very good thing. The danger is that self development can lead us to more self cherishing, self absorption, self infatuation. And these are not the true causes of happiness, but the opposite. And that's the whole corporate conditioning, no? The whole corporate conditioning is rat race, go ahead, beat others at any cost. But as they say, winning a rat race has only one problem. You still end up being a winning rat, right? You're still a rat. You've still pushed people back. And this whole emphasis on self development can make you very insular, make you very self regarding, make you very sort of not concerned with the world around you if you get to go ahead. But if you look into the depth of spirituality, the more self absorbed you are, the more unhappy you are. Mother has also said it, no, that those who want to take are always unhappy because they'll take and never have enough. But it's in giving that we receive. If you give, that's the real cause of happiness. Have you observed that? That when you're in the mode of giving, that really makes you happy? Why? Not because of a moral or ethical conditioning, not because you've been told you're a good person if you give, but because it's our original nature to give. And any movement that takes you to your original nature gives you happiness, right? So in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he talks about two kinds of thought waves. One is klishta thought waves. Kla in Sanskrit is the sound of clashing. Klishta is pain-giving thought waves that take you away from your truth. You can come here. And one is aklishta thought waves that bring you closer to your truth, to your original nature. Anything that brings you closer to your original nature will give you joy. Anything that takes you away from your original nature will make you unhappy. And this whole Anahita, and this whole emphasis on self-development, self-aggrandizement takes you away from your original nature. So in that sense, it's an aklishta vritti way of living. So it's going to, in the long run, have you noticed that sometimes when we are in this very self-regarding mode, we want time to ourselves, we want to push people away. If anyone makes demands on our time, we get irritated. But when we have time to ourselves, very often we don't spend it in a way that really makes us happy. But in that time, if somebody reaches out to us and we don't really want to help them because I've made up my mind this is my time. But if you get pulled into the zone of listening to them, helping them, you feel much happier than if you just had that time to yourself. Have you noticed that? So, actually, this is what the Dalai Lama is saying, that the key to happiness is not just self development. Yes, you should develop yourself, But if that self development is making you self absorbed, selfish, self regarding, and somehow cut away from the rest, then it's actually making you a more unhappy person. So, so Jack took a moment to process this before asking. So, the true cause of happiness, do we need to discover what these are for ourselves, or are there general principles? Must we turn back on the material world? He didn't get any further before the Dalai Lama started laughing. Oh no, becoming a monk is not a true cause of happiness either. There could be many monks who are miserable. Then, adopting a more serious expression, he continued, we each need to find our own personal methods of cultivating happiness. But there are general principles, two main true causes of happiness. First, the wish to give happiness to others, which Buddhists define as love. It's paradoxical, no? That the wish to give happiness to others, that is what actually could be a cause for your own happiness. Last time we read a prayer and meditation of the mother where she said that she had two constants in her consciousness. Everything kept else would fluctuate, but the two constants in her consciousness, one was a will that everyone should be happy in the true happiness of the divine, and two is her goal to realize the divine. And she said that whenever she was low, she would always be reminded of these two goals, and they would bring her back to happiness and grounding. So that's what, if we can cultivate a mind which is constantly looking, or at least has a wish that others should be happy. Now, it's a very fine line. It shouldn't be a philanthropist ego, not an ego which says, I want to help you so that everyone sees I can help you and it makes me feel good about myself. Not like that, because that is actually sowing seeds for unhappiness. Because if you don't get the appreciation you expect for your good deed, you'll be miserable. But the real thing is to just have a genuine goodwill, a desire that people should be happy, whether they are happy through me or through other sources. Mother had written very beautifully in one of her prayers and meditation that the sad part about the world is that the asura has seized human beings. The asura is the one who wants to channel God consciousness through him to people, but is adamant that it should be through me only. And he resents it if it reaches people through other sources. So that asuric turn of wanting to do good so that I may be seen shining and resplendent, that is also not a way to go about it, and that is also not what will make you happy. But a genuine desire that may everyone be happy in this world through any source. If I'm used as a conduit, fine. If others are used as a conduit, fine. But to cultivate a mind which actually feels happy when it sees others happy and has a will that they should be happy, right? Unfortunately, because of our conditioning, most of us live with the opposite. There's a German word, Schadenfreude, which is unreasonable happiness at the misery of others. Because we are all living with so much misery ourselves that if we see others miserable, our misery is solace. But that's a very artificial solace. If instead we can cultivate a mind which is constantly wishing happiness on others, the Dalai Lama, the mother, they all the masters, they say that a mind like that is the source of joy. And we won't understand it till we start experiencing it, or at least get glimpses of it. So, two main true causes of happiness. First, the wish to give happiness to others. which Buddhists define as love, and second, the wish to help free others from dissatisfaction or suffering, which we define as compassion. Such beautiful, simple definitions of love. The definition of love, the wish to give happiness to others. Definition of compassion, the wish to free others from suffering. So simple and true. The main shift you see is from placing self at the center of our thoughts to putting others there. It is, what do you say, a paradox that the more we can focus our thoughts on the well being of others, the happier we become. The more we can focus our thoughts on the well being of others, the happier we become. The first one to benefit is oneself. I call this being wisely selfish. An interesting philosophy mused Jack, wisely selfish. We should test these principles against our own experience to see if they are true, His Holiness said. For example, think of times in your life when you experienced great contentment. Perhaps you find that your thoughts were on someone else. Then compare. Think about your times of greatest unhappiness, upset. Who were you thinking about then? As his visitor was considering this, His Holiness continued, scientific research is most useful. MRI scans have been done on meditators while they are focusing on different subjects. We expect meditators to have greatest happiness when their minds are completely calm and relaxed. But the prefrontal cortex of the brain, the part linked to positive emotion, lights up when people meditate on the happiness of others. This is quite a thought. We do know that the Dalai Lama has done a lot of experiments with his advanced monks. He has actually invited neuroscientists to take their brain maps when they are in states of meditation. And one would think that when they were in a thought-free state, the yoga chitta vritti condition that Rishi Patanjali talks about, they'd be the happiest. But that wasn't so. The prefrontal cortex, which lights up when you're happy, lit up the most when the monks were genuinely wishing well for all beings. So, if that is a parameter of happiness, they felt happiest not even in states of high samadhi. They felt happier when they were simply wishing well to everyone. So, that's quite a thing for science to prove. Jack was nodding. Self development takes us only so far. Then there needs to be other development. The Dalai Lama brought his hands together with a smile. Exactly. Jack paused before saying, now I understand why you said that something useful can come from this experience. There is a story, a metaphor that perhaps you might find useful, said His Holiness. A man arrives home to find a huge pile of sheep manure that has been dumped on his front yard. He didn't order the manure, he did not want it, but somehow it is there, and his only choice now is to decide what to do with it. He can put it in his pockets and walk around all day complaining to everyone about what happened. But if he does this, people will start avoiding him after a while. More useful is if he spreads the manure on his garden. We all face the same choice when dealing with problems. We don't ask for them, we don't want them. But the way we deal with them is what's most important. If we are wise, the greatest problems can lead to the greatest insights. So, this is a very beautiful story which actually demonstrates how the world is actually never enough, isn't it? Uh, so the world may give us lots of wealth, lots of everything else, But the real happiness comes from our consciousness. It comes from our desire to be happy and to make other people happy, isn't it? So, in fact, we'll be doing that in a short while. The Buddha gave a beautiful meditation to practice. It's easy for anyone to practice it, and in fact, it's the first meditation I ever practiced in my life. In those days, I was a student of science, I didn't believe easily. But I remember I was at a friend's house and there was an American talking very animatedly about this practice of meditation which had changed his life. So I went and asked him what it was, and he guided me to a book, and I started practicing this metta meditation, which we did in our class also today, but we'll repeat it today. So, and I found that there was one relationship I was struggling a lot with for years, and sometimes talking made it worse. But I started practicing metta on this person, and miraculously, without saying a word to each other, our dynamics changed. So that's, and the word metta in Pali, one derivative is rain. Rain falls everywhere randomly, right? It doesn't fall with a vested interest that I'll get this out of making the flower bloom, I'll get that out of falling here. It just falls everywhere for the joy of making things bloom. So it's an act of random kindness, right? So metta targets making our consciousness like rain, which just flows everywhere to make things blossom without wanting a kickback, without wanting appreciation. The kickback is the joy of feeling it, right? So Rumi says a pearl goes up for auction. None has enough to buy it, so it buys itself. Metta is that pearl. If you try to auction it, nobody can pay you back for it. But it buys itself. Just the joy of feeling the goodwill is something that can heal everything. So if you change your energies from wanting to get to just giving, that itself can be the most healing thing for you. Last time we uh, recall the story of Rockefeller who was terminally ill, right? And the doctors had given him just a few months to live. And he decided that I have so many millions, what do I do with them? So he used all his intelligence to distribute his wealth to help people. 6 months came and went, and he just got better and better in his health till he totally healed. Now, medicine can't explain this, but since his energies had changed from being a grabber to a giver, those energies had healed him at every level. So, sometimes if we are depressed, if we just go out and help somebody, the flow that comes through us as we are helping heals our depression, isn't it? Or just an intention to help, a smile, anything, but an intention to help, not so that you can show off about it, because that actually leaves a bad taste. As they say, if your right hand does good, your left hand shouldn't know about it, right? There was a very sweet story once that there was a man who was climbing. There was a saint who lived at the top of a hill. Okay, no problem. There was a man who lived on a hilltop. He was a sage, and he was a very well known sage. So people from all over used to come to visit him. So one day, two pilgrims were coming to see him. And on the way, they saw an old shepherd walking with a pig, and the pig was very old and it was having trouble climbing uphill. So the old shepherd picked up the pig, put it on his shoulders, and with great difficulty was walking uphill. And the two pilgrims who were looking for the sage thought, what a stupid shepherd! The pig won't even feel grateful for it. and he'll probably get a very bad body ache the next morning. What's the point of putting himself through so much discomfort for the sake of a pig who won't even realize? Anyway, then they reached the hill, and they knocked on the hut, and they saw that the same shepherd who had carried the pig up was the holy man. So one of them asked the man that, "Sir, we are baffled. We saw you, we were behind you while you were climbing, and why did you pick up the pig on your shoulders? It didn't really help him and it put you through so much discomfort." So the man just blinked. For him, he didn't even remember that he'd done it. It was so natural for him that he didn't even remember that he had put himself through so much pain to help another sentient being. So, when you do good, just be very careful that the good is not offered to your ego. It's not offered so that you can tom-tom about it later, or it's not done so that you look good in the eyes of people, because that takes you away from happiness. That's again a cliche vritti. So these are words of Pamela Bloom. Exalted lamas or ordinary students have taken daring leaps into the unknown of their being, into what might be called visionary compassion. That is to say, compassion that goes that extra mile beyond one's comfort level. Compassion that embraces self and other as one continuum. Compassion that sees the world squarely for what it is, yet neither flinches nor gives up. It is a state of mind, a condition of being that we all desperately need. More than anything, compassion as taught by the Buddha is not about a giver and a receiver, an I and another. In fact, the various Buddhist meditation practices taught to develop compassion are all focused on the dissolution of the abyss between that which gives and that which receives. That is to say, the dissolution of the perception of the abyss. So, what Pamela Bloom is saying here is that in my ignorance, I'm very convinced that I'm separate from you, right? So, I give you, I am the benefactor, you are the beneficiary. But all wisdom teachings tell us that we are all part of one continuous energy, that actually we are flowing into each other. So if my right hand needs to be scratched and my left hand does it, I can't say that my left hand has given to my right hand, right? It's just done what organically needed to be done. So actually in the world also it's like that. We are also interconnected, that when one helps another, it's just as organic as the left hand scratching the right hand. The right hand doesn't need to feel arrogant or proud about it. The left hand doesn't need to feel humbled. It's just a natural flow. So Pamela Bloom is saying that Buddhist compassion is really about dissolving the abyss. Abyss is a gap between that which gives and that which receives. So you just do unto others what you do to yourself. It's natural, and you're not thinking, I'm so good because I did it, or you're not thinking twice before you do it, right? No me, no you. Only a sea of sentient beings suffering for endless aeons, all looking for a way out. The Buddha says the way out, the cure and antidote, the medicine and the balm lies deep within us, in the very nature of who we are. Loving sentiment begins to arise out of our deepest connection to all life, not from a concept or romantic illusion. Action becomes appropriate to the situation without leaving any messy imprint of the do-gooder. That imprint of the do-gooder is truly very messy. If you do anything good and you want to show off about it, you want to preen about it, actually that makes you more miserable. So Zen masters will say, do good quietly. If you can't do it quietly, start again. Never tom-tom about what you've done and never expect even a return, because your return will be in the joy you will feel in doing it, isn't it? So, most of you are familiar with the practice of metta, but let's do it anyways. I'll just tell you what the practice involves. It's a beautiful meditation for anyone to do, and if all of you do it every day, you'll definitely find it life changing. So it's very simple. You say phrases of metta, and they end with, suppose you're sending metta to yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free. Well, happy, peaceful, and free. So you start by sending to yourself. Morning, of course, we did it in more detail, but we don't have time for that here, so we'll shorten it. Then you send metta to a person you're having conflict with, your difficult person. Uh, just for your information, in the morning we also used a neutral person, because there's also benefit in sending metta to a person you're completely neutral to, a person you love very much, but we are going to skip all that. So we'll come to a person who's you're having difficulty with, and then to all beings everywhere, right? So come, sit straight, shut your eyes. So metta is the meditation of loving kindness, or the revolutionary art of being happy. If I can be in a state of metta constantly, I am constantly and unconditionally happy. So bring into this space in front of your eyes an image of yourself. Then put your right hand at the center of your chest, left palm over it. Go to a space a little behind where your palms touch, what's called the heart space, the seat of the psychic being. In my experience, when metta is sent through this seat, it is most effective. So just focus over here, looking for a smile in your heart or mother's presence for a few breaths. And whenever you feel a connection in your heart, relax your hands. And feeling that presence in your heart, bring an image of yourself in your happy place. A place which makes you feel peaceful, happy, safe. And seeing yourself in your happy place, send yourself metta, loving kindness. As I say each phrase out aloud, after I say it, there's a pause. During the pause, you repeat it soundlessly, sending it to the image of yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free. Through the smile in your heart, as if the words are getting filtered through the smile in your heart, and then reaching the image of yourself one more time. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free. And one last time on your own. You can relax the hands or keep them on the heart. Now bring in front of you your difficult person, the person who may have caused you pain. And remind yourself that when I forgive, I set a prisoner free, only to discover the prisoner is me. So the person may not deserve your metta at all, but you're not doing it for the person, it's part of your own healing. Secondly, just remember that everyone who hurts others is hurting themselves. Focus on all the possible suffering in that person's life and send the person metta. May you be well. Through the smile in your heart, filter the words through your heart and to the person. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. And one last time on your own. And then you do what the Dalai Lama's monks did when their brain map showed the highest quotient of happiness, just wishing well to all beings randomly. So through the smile in your heart, letting the smile spread 360 degrees, thinking of as many faces as you can, neighbors, family, friends, people on the road, people all over the world. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. and once on your own towards everyone. And let's end with the Metta chant which Goenkaji does at his Vipassana retreats. The words are very simple. I'll repeat each line twice, second time with me. So continue to send metta to all beings as you chant it with me. Sabka mangale, sabka mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. Everyone, sabka mangale, sabka mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. Tera mangale, mera mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. Tera mangale, mera mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. Jan jan mangale, jan jan mangale, jan jan mangale, hoye. Jan jan mangale, jan jan mangale, jan jan mangale, hoye. All together. Sabka mangale, sabka mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. Tera mangale, mera mangale, sabka mangale, hoye. And one last time from your heart, may all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And slowly open your eyes. So does this practice, now you will say, what's the point of wishing everyone happy? Everyone's not going to be happy. But the point is, if it's an authentic wish in your heart, does it not make you happy? So that's the whole point. If you have this authentic desire that people should be happy, the biggest beneficiary of that desire is you. It makes you feel light and happy because it connects you to your original nature. Yeah. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, we did that in the morning class also. Uh, so you can do that. You touch the part that's hurting and you think of it as a living person and you just send it metta, and it's amazing how it heals. It, this metta has powers that, I mean, human goodwill, whatever you call it has unbelievable powers. So now we come to that part of the PDF which says his abode. We'll come to toll later. So it begins with lines from Emerson's poem Brahma. It goes, the strong God's pine for my abode. That is God speaking. So the God with a capital G is different from gods, Indras, and all of them. So the strong gods pine for my abode. The gods try to reach me and pine in vain the secret seven, the Saptarishis who are always doing tapasyas to find God. But thou, meek lover of God, finding me, thou meek lover of the good, finding me, turn thy back on heaven. So God is telling a devotee of his who's turned in service to human being that everyone is pining for me. But you, meek lover of the good, you find me and you turn your back on heaven. So this is God's address to his devotee. Taking out from this, a devotee's address to God could be choosing your abode in all. So the devotee is telling God that you have made your home in everything, O all powerful one. You appear to turn your back on conventional heavens. One concept of the divine is that he is only in aspects of existence that are beautiful. However, if he exists unconditionally in everything, he is in the darker aspects of existence as well. Those are his abodes too. Thus, when vanity, self regard, fear, jealousy are seen to be his chosen abodes, judgment towards them drops, and in surrendering to their sacredness, the game is seen through. So here we are extending the feeling of metta to our own mind states. Rama said we can send it to our body. But what about our mind states where suppose I'm feeling jealous or critical or petty? I'm full of judgment towards those mind states, right? And I'm full of judgment towards myself because I'm having those mind states. But here the writer is reminding me that if everything is God, even those mind states are God, right? It can't be otherwise. Everything is unconditionally God. So, thus, when vanity, self regard, fear, jealousy are seen to be his chosen abodes, judgment towards them drops, and in surrendering to their sacredness, the game is seen through. It is seen that he alone is all. Then worship arises also towards these hands that worship, and devotion flows to the devotee, and somewhere in course of the journey to the beloved, I fall in love with myself. And I know that in loving myself, even in moments of fear or anger or jealousy, I am loving the beloved with a capital B with a completion never felt before. So the point is that whenever I see something that looks offensive to my senses in myself or another, immediately there's a judgment towards it. But here the writer is saying that see, this also has the dark side of the moon, the dark side of God. And instead of judging it, have a desire to heal it. Metta is this constant desire to heal anything that's dark or unhappy, right? So I can never really send metta to another until I learn to send it to myself. So every time a critical judgment, even towards myself, comes up, instead of judging myself, I can just keep sending myself metta, isn't it? And I can see that this too is another streaming of the mother. Every mind state is a streaming of that one consciousness, right? And if it's come for a purpose. It will lead to some greater good eventually. Every moment of fear is a stepping stone to a future strength and courage. Every moment of jealousy is a future stepping stone to a future generosity, right? So the thing is, even when dark moments come, can I be soft and gentle towards them? Because that space of loving everything is the biggest alchemist. If you can hold that space towards any negativity, it can change. But if you keep calling it wrong, judging it, in a way you're just strengthening it, right? So this piece is inviting you that whenever a negative judgment comes up towards yourself also, or whenever you feel you're not liking yourself, instead of giving in to that dislike, just start sending yourself metta. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free. And then it says, the phantom me can be ugly at times or beautiful, but with a lesser beauty. So the phantom me is the ego me. That can be ugly sometimes, it can be beautiful sometimes, but with a lesser beauty. The real is all beautiful for eternity, and so it plays unafraid the role of phantom ugliness. The real you, your original face, is all beautiful for eternity. So unafraid it will play now at this mind state of pettiness, this mind state of jealousy. But behind all that, you are the real, which is all beautiful always. Yeah? So now this piece says, awareness is love. So last class we talked about the witnessing consciousness behind thought, the awareness behind thought. And that awareness is naturally a field of love. Hence, love remains as a potential when there is identification with thought, emotion, or body. When the identification is released into awareness, then the love held as potential in the identification outflows. Love is an, so let me explain this. When awareness is identified, see, awareness is love, but that awareness remains as a potential when it's identified with thoughts. But when the awareness separates from thought, then without doing anything, when you start feeling this presence behind thought, you start feeling love, because awareness naturally has an emanation of love in it. Yeah, you'll notice that when you're really feeling quiet, when you're able to witness your thoughts, you don't have to make an effort to love. You're in a very soft, gentle, embracing space anyway. So when identification is released into awareness, then love held as a potential in the identification outflows. Love is an infinite letting go, so much so that it becomes the infinite arms of awareness, embracing the entire universe, a unique embrace that grasps at naught, clings to naught. So our understanding of love is its clinging, its possessiveness, its attachment. But the real love is infinite letting go. It can let go of its awareness, lets go of everything and maintains its poise of love. So awareness is something that has see, if I'm holding this much, my embrace is so much. If my embrace widens, it becomes so much, so much, so much. Awareness is such a wide embrace that it embraces the whole world, but it holds on to nothing. And that's what really love is, when it can really embrace, let go, and still not lose its affection. We feel if we are not possessive, not needy, not attached, we don't love. But the love of awareness, the spiritual love we are talking about is very different. It doesn't have any clinging to it at all. It very happily lets its object of love move on. Now, this is Mother's words. This was the supreme love, to accept the loss of the perfect condition of supreme divinity, its absolute consciousness, its infinite knowledge, to unite with unconsciousness, to dwell in the world with ignorance and darkness. So, Mother's saying the ultimate love is the love of God, where God has agreed to let go of his condition of bliss and joy and whatever, and embrace consciousness, which is the opposite of what it is. So that's what she's saying. And yet, none would perhaps call it love. As human beings, we won't even recognize this as God's love. That He has left all that, all the heavens of bliss and become all this. We won't call it love, for it does not clothe itself in a superficial sentiment. It makes no demand in exchange for what it has done, no show of its sacrifice. The force of love in the world is trying to find consciousnesses that are capable of receiving this divine movement in its purity and expressing it. This race of all being towards love, this irresistible push and seeking out in the world's heart and in all hearts, is the impulse given by a divine love behind the human longing and seeking. It touches millions of instruments trying always, always failing. But this constant touch prepares these instruments, and suddenly one day there will awake in them the capacity of self giving, the capacity of loving. So, love is really a need to give yourself. That is what real love is, not our idea of grasping, possessing, attaching. Love is a supreme force which the eternal consciousness sent down from itself into an obscure and darkened world, that it might bring back the world and its beings to the divine. So a mother says that, if you want to bake bread, you'll add some baking powder to it because it makes the bread rise. So if the dough of the bread is matter, love is the baking powder. It makes everything rise. So love is what takes evolution forward and takes everything to its highest point. So further she says, love is a supreme force which the eternal consciousness sent down from itself into an obscure and darkened world, that it might bring that world and its beings to the divine. The material world, in its darkness and ignorance, had forgotten the divine. Love came into the darkness. It awakened all that lay there asleep. It whispered, opening the ears that were sealed. There is something that is worth waking to, worth living for, and it is love. And with the awakening to love, there entered into the world the possibility of coming back to the divine. So, in a way, when we practice metta, we are not consciously thinking of mother, but when we practice it in a way, we are naturally connecting with the energy that mother is, isn't it? If mother is the energy of love, every time we practice metta, we are naturally connecting with that energy of love. So, to sum up today's class and how we bring it into our practice, to understand that whenever we are unhappy, depressed, different shades of unhappiness, somewhere we have cut ourselves off from the energy of love, because love and joy are synonymous. In Sanskrit, there's no word for love. If you want to say I'm feeling love, you say I'm feeling ananda, because the moment you feel love, you're happy. So a beautiful way to reconnect with that energy of love is to take the focus off yourself and just focus on how you can give to others, right? Because the moment your energies move from receiving to giving, you automatically flow into the movement of happiness. And it doesn't have to be big things. It can be a smile. It can be just like Niharika reached out for the bottle and gave her water when she needed it. Simple things like this, which people may or may not notice, which hopefully you won't even care if they notice, but it makes you happy that anyone else breathed a little easier because of something you did. That's what will really count in the long run. At the end of your life, frankly, how much you've achieved, how much you've made won't really matter. What will matter is how kind you've been, how generous in giving of yourself you've really been. So, in the beginning, you may not feel like, if you're all in an energy of negativity, you may not really feel like reaching out to somebody else, because you feel, I'm so miserable, first I have to become happy. But that first will never come. If you look away from your misery and you start looking at others, automatically your misery will become less. And of course, if you practice metta every day, as a sit also and walking also, the moment a negative thought about anyone enters your head, just with your eyes open also, you can start saying, may you be well, may you be happy. But if the negative thought has entered your head, the first person who needs metta is you. So first send yourself metta, then send the person metta. And kindness begins with yourself. Be kind to yourself also. Even if negative mind states come, instead of judging yourself, be patient with those mind states. Those are also streamings of that one consciousness we call God. Yeah? So practice this through the week. It will help you. We end with 3 ohms.